My name is Alex. And sometimes people ask me, well, what was your birth name? Or what's your real name? And I don't like to share that because I'm Alex, and that's my name. That's how I identify, and that's the name I'd like people to call me.
So I'm Gia, and I like to believe I was born Gia, just without the name, you know. I knew from a very early age, 4 or 5, that I was a lot more like my sisters, my 2 sisters and my mom, than I was like my brothers and my dad. And that's a unique feeling. It's a strange feeling because your body looks a little different, perhaps, than them.
I mean, from the time you go into the doctor's office and you're given a form, that would check male or female, in most cases that's the choice. There's usually not a blank space to fill in your gender. In my case, as a transgender man, I would check male, but in the back of my head I'd wonder, what are they looking for? Like, are they wondering about body parts? Or that doesn't necessarily tell them what pronouns I prefer.
Here's the gender trap again, is that we need to know if you're male or female in order to how to treat you. How would I possibly treat prostate cancer in somebody with a vagina?
I had a urinary tract infection, so I explained my symptoms to the doctor and told him that, I don't know if this is relevant, but I want you to know that I'm transgender, so I don't have, the usual anatomy of a typical male. And he looked at me and stood up and rushed out of the room.
I have breasts now, and I'm a middle-aged woman, actually approaching 50, and I have a history of breast cancer in my family. I thought, just like any other middle-aged woman, this is a time for me to start having breast exams and getting a mammogram. And so when I brought this up with this new primary care doctor, he was embarrassed and befuddled about what to do with me. And it really made me feel so horrible that I brought that topic up. And I can imagine someone in different settings never going back to that doctor again. And if they're in a rural setting, maybe they'll never go back to the doctors ever again.
Okay, so a good friend of mine who has, I believe, a family history of cancer with female reproductive organs, knows that he's at a really high risk, but has said, I'm not going to go to a gynecologist. I just don't deal with that. I would rather die. To be so nervous about being mistreated or judged that you're willing to basically die, it's a shocking decision to make, and it's sad that someone would have to feel that way. And I don't think that's an uncommon position.
It just puts up barriers for me to say, maybe I'm just not going to go to the doctor, and then for 10 years I don't get pap smears, and then I'm dying of ovarian cancer.
I think some of the disparities for transgender people have to do with the fact that, one, it's very hard to find a provider. In some parts of the state, it's nearly impossible.
For me, that was a huge piece of why I was dying of AIDS. I was on my deathbed because I was misdiagnosed for so many years because people weren't going, you're really high risk because you're a gay man. They were like, well, you're a trans masculine person who mostly sleeps with women, even though you also might sleep with men. You're not in that risk group because you have a vagina who's mostly sleeping with vaginas. Like, that's mind-blowing to me that people weren't going, this looks like AIDS.
For transgender people, it's not a choice. It's just the way that they are. And if they live this split life, they're much more likely to have health problems. Their mental health issues can be extreme with depression, suicidal thoughts, more prone to high blood pressure, any of the stress illnesses like that, heart attacks, that type of thing.
And there was a moment where I was rushed to the ER, I was having an asthma attack, and I had this little note on my medical form. And so when I got to the ER and I could barely breathe, the intake person said, "Gia, we'll take care of you." And it made such a big difference to be just recognized who you were.
I don't know, like, yeah, maybe the first time you see a bearded person with a vagina or somebody that has a penis and breasts, like, this might be blowing your mind. What do you do at other times when you're shocked? You don't let it show in your face. You meet them with compassion and you start to gather information. You can even be honest. Like, I've had doctors say to me, like, I'm really uncomfortable. Thank you for acknowledging that to me. I'm happy to move ahead with you.
I want equality everywhere, not just in one place. I want it everywhere. It's not that complicated. It's really not. Everyone thinks it is, but it isn't.